4D Chimpanzee acrylic nail art tutorial by Hotpinkzebrapolish. Hi guys, in today's video I'm going to be showing you how to do, this is a 4D monkey, and so on the nail it looks like there's a branch going across, and then the monkey himself, he's not a monkey, he's a chimpanzee, but he swings back and forth going like that. And the reason I did a chimp instead of a monkey is because monkeys have tails and a tail would be really weak, and so I figured if it was a ape without a tail that would just alleviate that potential breakage issue. So that's why I went chimp. So I hope you like this, and don't forget to click subscribe to my future videos as well. So to start the background of the nail, I did a whole bunch of marbled colors of green. So it's actually 2 colors of green and black. But once you marble them together, it looks like you've got many more gradations. So just set down a bead of each color onto the nail, and then just with your brush, gently kind of mix them together and add little bits here and there where you see fit. It doesn't have to look like anything specific. It's just, you want it to be like an out of focus forest background. So just greens all mixed up on the nail. And so once you have that all done like that, I'm just going to add a little bit more brighter green to that center because it got a little dark. But then I'm going to encase the nail with a layer of clear acrylic. When you do a marble, or at least when I do marble like that, it's never very smooth from the beginning just because it's not a smooth thing that you're putting down. You're mixing the colors together, and different acrylics have different consistencies, and so you really want to make sure you put that clear acrylic over the top just to give a really nice base layer that's got some strength in it before you start filing it. So now I'm going to be filing it into shape. So I'm just using my e-file. If I was to use hand files, my preferred grits are 180 to start with, and then I like to move on to a 240 grit just to go through and smooth it out and make sure that the surface is almost kind of velvety. So now I'm going to be applying a layer of gel sealer over the top of that nail and curing it. See how the greens just really come alive with that gel sealer? I love watching gel sealer being applied because it's so, I don't know, I like that. So then a little bit down from the cuticle, I'm going to create a small hole in the nail with an e-file, and then I'm going to fill that hole with glue, set a little piece of a wire inside that so it's perpendicular to the nail, just hold it until it sets, and then on a nail form backing with a little bead, I'm going to put down some nail glue next to the bead and then glue a piece of wire to that. Make sure that you do not fill your bead with glue because otherwise you need that to have the hole in it. And I was just using a little glass seed bead like you would use in jewelry making. And then on that piece of wire, I'm going to be first covering it up just a little ways down with some black acrylic. So for my chimp, like I said, I went with a chimp because of the lack of tail. So I'm going to start with black acrylic, and I had his arm going up like it's going to be holding that bead. And then I'm going to be starting to thicken up the areas and kind of making those next to the wire for his head and his body. And right now that acrylic is very thin, and I know it's so hard to see what I'm doing when everything's being done with black acrylic because black acrylic looks so dark on camera. And but you got his head and then his body, and the shapes are relatively simple right now. There's no extra depth being added yet, but then I'm going to be adding the leg that's sticking out to the side and that little foot, and then his arm that's sticking out, so the 2 that are away from the wire. So now we've got 2 arms and 1 leg. And then the other hand, the hand that's up by the bead, you don't really have to worry about adding that one. You can just leave that area because it's going to go underneath the branch, so you don't see it anyway. And so then on top of the wire next to the body but kind of below it, you're going to be adding the last leg, or the other leg. So just add that down and kind of within the wire, because you have to make sure the wire is covered, but you can just make that leg look a little bit bent around it. And add a little bit of thickness to where like his shoulder blade would be for that arm that's on the wire. Just adding a little bit more texture there so it's not such a straight, abstract, weird looking line that's there. It actually has like a natural flow and movement. And then just adding a little bit of thickness everywhere. You really need this to be strong. And so the thicker the acrylic is, the stronger it's going to be. That being said, you don't want it to be horribly thick and clunky looking, but you got to find that balance. So now I'm going to be adding some more acrylic to his head, and then making sure that that's just pulling it down a little bit so it's not like a big blob of acrylic, but that it just kind of blends up, it thickens up his head. And I'm also going to be adding some more acrylic to both his arm and his leg that are away from the wire, because those 2 are going to be a little thinner, and so you just need to add a little bit extra to make them strong enough. And then add a little bit more to his tummy so it looks like he, I don't know, maybe just ate a whole bunch of bananas or a papaya or something and he's got a nice full tummy. So then I'm going to just peel off that from the nail form backing enough that I can trim off the excess wire off the bottom of that 1 foot, just with a wire cutter, just nip off that end. And then with white acrylic, I'm going to sculpt his face. So I'm going to start like with his mouth area and just place a circle down and split it in about half for where his mouth is, and then add the area around his eyes. Really push your brush in right around where his eyes are so that that part digs in a little bit and it kind of shows the black acrylic through it and really adds some nice shading without you having to really do much of anything. And then I'm going to be adding just a teensy bit of white on the sides of his head for his ears that are sticking through his fur. It really isn't very much, just like a little half circle on each side there, just to show his ears. And you really want to make sure he has that pronounced brow bone. And so a nice like pulled out 3 shape for his brow, and then add a little bit of this white acrylic on his feet. And you could also use, if you have a really opaque cover color, like a beige or something, you could use that color as well instead of the white. My cover pink is quite translucent, and so it really wouldn't work to go over the black. But then string that piece of wire that's on the nail through the bead on your chimp, and then set that on the nail just so that it's holding there, but trim off the excess wire so there's not a mile of it sticking up. And then on a nail form backing, once again, I'm going to be sculpting out the little bit of acrylic that's going to create the branch going up and over that bead. So you hide the bead. The bead doesn't really get seen at all. So just create that little stripe. It's a long rectangle of the brown acrylic, and let it set until it's about 90% set. It's really hard to tell. 75, I said 75 in the video, but 75, it needs to really hold its shape. So then pick that up and then set it over, and it's got to go up and over the bead just like that, and it does take some working on it. And then hold it there, and it might not stick because it's pretty set at this point, so you might have to reattach it a little bit. That one side of mine really did not want to stick, so I just took some brown acrylic, and first I took a silicone tool and really pressed it, but then just take some brown acrylic and add a little bit of acrylic on the edge just to tack that in place for a moment. And make sure your monkey still swings before you get too crazy here. So then, using more of that brown acrylic, just go through and fix up the sides of it a little bit, just like that. Just take and add it and blend it out so that you can't tell that there's this weird thing in the middle. So it just looks nice and smooth and rounded like it's a branch. So I'm just adding more of that brown acrylic up and over. And while you're doing this, make sure that you don't get any acrylic on your chimpanzee or the bead that he's holding on to or anything like that, so that it won't swing. And periodically just make sure that he does swing, because sometimes when you're doing stuff that's 4D that has movement like this, you'll try it out right away and it moves and it's perfect, and then all of a sudden you try it 10 minutes later after you're almost done and it doesn't work, and you don't know where it went wrong or what went wrong. But if you every once in a while check these things out to make sure that everything is still working properly, hopefully you can avoid such issues. So then, with more of the brightest color of green that I was using, and like right now I'm trying to keep that monkey away from that wet green acrylic, I'm just going to take and I'm going to just kind of spread it out and make it kind of lumpy looking for some leaves on the edges of that branch. So the center of it I'm just leaving brown, but on the edges make it a little green. And then with gold paint, I'm going to be adding some color to my chimpanzee. So I'm just like around, I'm going to be adding gold to everywhere where I put the white acrylic down. And then with some gray acrylic, that acrylic paint, not acrylic, but acrylic paint that I've watered down, I'm going to be highlighting everywhere he has that black fur. And then if it got to be too much, I can just go through with black and then add black in his eyes, add his smile with black, just like that, so just separate his lips. And then with more of the gold, just add a couple little lines across your branch to make it look like it's got some bark and it's got some shape and depth in there, and then just a little bit of gold highlights on the leaves as well. I really love using that metallic gold paint on art like this because it really just makes it have movement. And then I'm going to be adding some matte top coat over everything 3D, so over the branch and over the chimpanzee. And that is it. I hope you like this design. This is one of my favorites. One of my nephews absolutely loves anything that is monkey or chimp related, so when I was doing this I really thought of him because I know that this would be something he'd like. And I actually painted a orangutan for him for Christmas, and if you're interested in that, that is available. That video is on my art channel, so I'll put a link to that in the description box below, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!